Let's get to work.
Oh yeah, we back, we did it that. We got money in our bank account and we're here to survive. We here, baby. You thought we were gone, but we're back. Hope you are ready for the awesomeness. Here we go, here we go. Coming to you live from the good land, it's your host, Tyler Richardson. We have been on hiatus. If you want to call it a vacation, if you want to call it a planning season or a planting season, depending on how super spiritual you feel free to label it whatever you want to fill in the blank with. All that to say, we've been gone, but now we're back. We're getting back into attraction. We're actually building more of an infrastructure around Sandbox, more than just the podcast, but some other stuff that's all gonna feed into that, which we will fill you in on later. But today, we are here to talk to you about another characterization. And today's characterization we're going to talk about is the hippie. All right? Now, if you're not familiar with our characterizations basically means anybody that you would come in contact with in a sandbox type of atmosphere. So imagine your younger self, probably dressed in some striped shirt, bright yellow shorts, and some blue kids. If you were anything like my life growing up, my mom loved those blue kids. All right, so I always wanted those like LA gears that lit up. And my mom was like, no, we're going to stick with the blue kids. But it's okay. It's okay. We love you, Londa. We love you. Shout out. So what we're going to talk to today is the hippie. Now, the hippie is just kind of a general broad statement to break down this character. Basically, by the hippie, we mean the more flowy soul, okay? And what we're going to talk about with the flowy type of soul is how to, if you're not somebody that's flowy, how to deal with somebody that's flowy, and if you're flowy, how to deal with other people that are not your flow. You get it? I know you do. Now, here's the basic thing. There's basically two types of people in this world, all right? There's the really flowy, things will just work out, the universe will open the door, the winds of change, God will make a way, that kind of vibe. And then there's the other side of the coin that's the very, we call it structured. I don't really like flowy and I don't really like structured because I think they're both kind of unfair labels, but it's just the easiest for understand who we're talking about. Because when I say flowy, your brain probably goes into a type of person, and structured is the very like, this is the way we do it. We never stray away from the plan. The plan is everything. And in church atmosphere, and even the subculture in the church atmosphere of like worship, I think a lot of times it's very easy to split the two. You have the flowy type who will go into a song set and they're like, oh, what are you gonna lead? And they're like, I don't know, but when I get up there, it's just gonna come out. And it's going to be awesome, and we're going to be changed forever. And then you have the other people who are like, oh, what are we singing tonight? Oh, I can tell you exactly what we're singing tonight. At 11:01, we're going to go into this song. We're going to sing it for 3 minutes and 27 seconds. We will allow 4 seconds of applause before a 1 minute 22 second transition into the 5 minute 29 second song. And they just break it down, break it down, break it down, break it down. The flowy hates anything planned. The people that are planned hate anything flowy. They both seem unsure, and they're almost negative in their own ways, depending on what side of the camp you're on. But I think what happens a lot of time is that the hippie flowy type of person usually gets a bad rap, because when you seem to have an air about yourself that you're just kind of rolling with the punches and you're very adaptable, sometimes a very structured person can look at an individual like that or a group of people like that and think, well, they're like that because they don't care. So that usually is what causes the divide. People that are structured, they care too much, and people that are flowy, they don't care at all. And that's just kind of how we see the two groups. And I want to figure out a way how we can respond rightly to those people that are flowy, and how those flowy people, if you're listening and you happen to find yourself in a flowy, personality, that you can learn how to be a leader with other people that are not flowy, so that we can all kind of glow from each other. Because what I'm starting to realize is that the most important way is not our way, it's the right way. There's a way that's right, and often we want our way to be right, because if it's not our way that's right, not only did we not really contribute, but now there's also something wrong with what we bring to the table. And I want to combat all of those ideas with the characterization of the hippie. Now, usually, um, they usually drive structure people crazy if you're a flowy person. Usually it's if they're in charge of a meeting, or if they're in charge of an event, or if they're just in charge of anything. Usually the structure people go bananas, or they just naturally write it off that's not going to be that serious, and both are wrong. You gotta be really careful about that, because if you don't notice, there's usually this attitude of, we got to have a strategy, and then everything else kind of goes out of that. And flowy people think that, well, as we walk along, as we figure things out, strategy will come along with that, and then we can put it all together. And strategy people are like, no, we got to have strategy, and then the only thing we're going to add to strategy is more strategy. And what I think sometimes happens is, yes, sometimes strategy doesn't come before action, it comes during the action, but action is still required. And so if you're a hippie, flowy type of personality, I think a lot of times what can immediately open the door and open the ears of people that are more structurally based is to have that action of a plan. There's the beauty and the freedom of flow really comes alive when it is flowing over an infrastructure. Going again to the example of the song set, if I have three songs that I think I'm going to sing in some type of service, regardless of what the service may be or entail, flow, the structure allows space for flow to be free. And when you flip that and you think, well, I'll just flow and then a song will just come to me, that usually more likely than not will be a chaotic scenario. But usually, if you can find a way to, even if it's a meeting, if it's an event, somebody gave you a task to do, and you're thinking, well, I'll just kind of figure this out and I'll just roll with the punches. Usually, the best seat to sit in is one of a plan. And if you toss the plan away, because as you move forward, you find a better plan, that's okay. It's the action that the structure people want to see. They want to see an action of structure that you build off of. And yes, they may still hate it because you add the flow to it, but at least that opens a door to them to accept what you're doing, because structure at least exists in some capacity. And usually people that are structured, usually the best way for structured people to kind of handle flowy people is to understand the good ideas that can come from that can build future structures. You don't always have to wipe the slate clean with every service. You don't have to wipe the slate clean with every financial plan. You have a base, and then things are added onto it. I heard an example one time about the importance of weight needing infrastructure. And you can't just add infrastructure to infrastructure. Infrastructure is built in a specific type of way so that it can handle a weight. Now, different weight may look different to different people. A certain type of weight could be money. Another type of weight could be opportunities. Another type of weight could be a book deal or influence, or, all that kind of stuff. But all those different elements are different forms of weight. But the only way you can put weight on something is there has to be a proper infrastructure. And if you spend all of your energy and you're doing all these things just to add more and more infrastructure, you're going to have a great tower that has absolutely no weight in it. The weight doesn't come from the infrastructure. The weight is something that's put on the infrastructure. Does that make sense? It's time that there's some specific meeting that has to be addressed, or maybe there's a specific service that has to be planned, and you're trying to figure out the best method. Should we do a structured method? Should we do a flowy method? Should we do flowy for 6 months and then try structure for 6 months, see which one we like and hate the least, and we'll just try and maneuver it? I think the most important thing is that a flowy personality has to be respected, even if it's not the chosen, pathway. The exact same thing with structure. If a flowy individual wants to be respected, flowy people, hear me, you got to be open and respectful to the structured way. Usually, we think naturally that respect is given because of titles, or because of age, or money, or the car you drive, or how good you performed last week, or if really important people in the company or the organization seem to look favorably on you. But what it really comes down to is, When leaders get down in the nitty gritty, leading around each other, you're depending on how much you naturally respect the opinion, even if it's not the opinion you take and you move forward with. That respect kind of builds on top of each other to then open the door for mutual respect to exist. I think the biggest thing and the most important thing is you've got to be genuine. Flowy people are miserable when they're forced to try and act like they're a structured individual so that way they can move up and they can move forward. And structured people hate being in a flowy environment where they just feel like they're just wanting to bang their head against the mirror. But I think the best way is to learn to let the genuine you operate. So for all the flowy people, the best way to let the genuine you operate is to learn how to get as many dams out of the river as humanly possible. Now, at the end of the day, you're a flowy person. You just kind of go with it. When bad news comes, it doesn't freak you out. You're okay. You can kind of handle it, and you do genuinely approach it with everything's going to be all right. I don't know how, I don't know when, but it's going to be okay. And then the structured people, you're looking at it like it's not going to be okay until we make it okay, and you're on all stress cylinders. And then the flowy people are, kind of just in your way because they don't seem to care. As if we all know different. Let's say a church has different, building programs. Let's say there's one church over here and they have a building program and they want to come up with $1 million building venture. $1 million wouldn't buy a whole lot, but let's just say they're going to get an awesome hallway, and this hallway is going to be the best church hallway you've ever seen, and they need $1 million to pay for it. One school of thought over here is we are just gonna believe God and it's just gonna work out, so we're just gonna build it. I don't know where the money's coming from. We only have $11 in the bank, but somehow this $1 million awesomeness is gonna finish. And then you have people a little bit more on the Dave Ramsey side of thought that we're just gonna take 7 years and do all the car washes and anything we can possibly do, and we're gonna have $1 million, and then one day we're gonna pay it off, and then 7 months later we're gonna have this awesome thing. The issue is not finding which one is necessarily better, because both are better for different people at different times. It's important you have to be genuine to yourself at the moment. But there is something to be said about the liberty that is given to flow when it is on top of an infrastructure. And there's something also to be said about the beauty that can flow into an infrastructure when it's allowed to let fresh wind blow through, whether that be new ideas, new ways of doing things. Does that make sense? So that is our characterization of the day. Again, we got a whole bunch of new stuff coming. We're really excited. We're a pinch stressed because, we think it's a little bit more than we can handle. So we're trying to have that infrastructure with that flow. We're trying to be it so you can receive it. And we're really pumped. WeZealots.com. There's a sandbox link on there. Also, We in the Sandbox at We in the Sandbox. Our Instagram, you can keep up with us. You can figure out everything we're doing. And we are going to learn how to lead well with other leaders. So until next time, let's remember to play nice in the sandbox. Oh yeah!